like, okay, I'll set the camera to high speed and I'll see what I can get, right? And fingers crossed. And what happened is I got a shot of the eruption of this beautiful pyroclastic cloud from under forest cover in a moving vehicle from the side of a van. You know how hard it is to get a photo like that? It's a 1 in a million shot.
Hello there. My name is Kit Rackley, my pronouns are they, them, and this is Coffee and Geography. The aim of the show is to get to know, explore and celebrate the diverse and intersectional range of people on this rock we call home and their love and passions of it. We'll find out why guests identify as geographers, and if they don't exactly, we'll have fun exploring all the myriad of ways that connects their life to geography. So, pour your favourite brew, get cozy and listen in. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at CoffeeJogPot. Off we go. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Coffee and Geography. And I've been looking forward to this chat for a long time actually. Somebody I connected with over Twitter, thanks to quite a few things we have in common, and now we actually get to have a conversation that is not limited to just 280 characters at a time. Justin Boot, oh my god, it's so good to see you. Hello.
Hi, how are you, Kit? Are you doing okay over there?
I am, now that the kids are in bed. Yeah, it's what's the time here? So it's 8 minutes past 9 at night here in the United Kingdom, and you are 8 hours behind me because you're in California.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to say, with your introduction, I'm actually going to say all the slashes because it's just funny, right?
Uh-oh.
So it says, this is great. Justin is a writer / gamer / reviewer / banker / hiker / photographer / world traveller. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Still trying to find their place in the world. Currently studying environmental science and geography, which is perfect for Justin as they have a curiosity about the world. Person right at my heart.
If there was more room, there's a character limit on those profiles. There's a lot more I could write on there, but that's okay. That basically sums it up.
How many slashes could you stick in there? No, it's brilliant. And it's, so much to talk about. I mean, we're going to try and, keep it everybody within like 30, 40 minutes. But I think if me and Justin get going, I think you're all in trouble. But we'll see. Right, okay, let's get straight to it. Got my drink in front of you. It's just decaf instant coffee because it's late at night. What have you got?
I am a trader because I don't drink coffee. I have just plain old Crystal Geyser water right here.
Okay, yeah.
I don't drink coffee. I don't even drink tea because I had a medical emergency a few years back, and so I had to drop tea. However, you can't. The folks at home can't see this, but I actually have a decorative coffee sack here on my wall. I'll show it to you later, Kate. It's from Greenwell Farms in Hawaii, over in Kona. They supply the beans for Starbucks. Actually, yeah. I don't know if they're still open. I got this like back in 2014, so I don't know if they're still open or not. But yeah, you can get decorative. You can use the sacks wherever you want. I have it like a poster on my wall. So.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put that on the Coffee and Geography map. Why not? Okay. It's been mentioned on the podcast because at the end of the day, the map's all for we're doing it for teachers and students who do a little bit of inquiry about one of the ways we're all interconnected and whether we're sustainable or not with our brews. So okay, I'm gonna have to you will have to show me that bit later. I'm quite intrigued now.
I'll show it to you right there.
Yep, there nice. So Greenwell Farms. Right, everybody, I can tell you it. Let me describe it to you. It's beautiful. There you go.
I'll take a picture for you later. How about that?
Oh, yeah, awesome. And we can stick that on Twitter. Right. So, as we've... You're located in a place which is deeply, deeply close to my heart. I honestly do think that I've left a piece of my soul there, and that is the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, this is not... I mean, I'm interviewing you here, Justin. I can talk about San Francisco for 30, 40 minutes myself, but... You're in the Bay Area.
Right.
So talk to me a bit about how San Francisco, the Bay Area, kind of, how is it a part of your soul? How is it a part of your identity? And how has maybe other places you've lived or experienced also formed your identity?
Well, okay, so for the Bay Area, right, like it's a really, it's a cultural melting pot. Because people from all over the world come to the Bay Area. Like we're not the number one economy in California in the United States for nothing. There's a lot of business here. There's a lot of varying cultures here. You can find anything you want. Well, not anything you want, but a lot of variety. But For me, I grew up in a small town at the base of a mountain. And when I was a kid, my mom and I used to hike that from bottom to top and back down twice a month. And that's where I developed my love of nature. As if you like anyone's hung out with me like for like an hour knows that I like to spend my time on the trails. I mean, I wandered cities. Like I've wandered about 2/3 of San Francisco, but I'm happier when I am in nature. I'm away from people. I'm away from the noise, and there's nothing in front of me but a trail. And the like the sun's on my back, and there's a nice breeze, and that's all I need. And you spend a day out there, and you can tell a lot about you can learn a lot about yourself and other people. If you go on a hike, you can learn what their priorities are, what their priorities, what their endurance is, what they're worried about, and how well they can prepare, how well they know themselves in terms of their limitations, things like that. And that really helped me develop not only that, but also my love of nature, because it would have been really easy for me to just hang out in suburbia, or something like that, never go outside, because I play video games. I love video games, but I'm happier when I'm outside. And I further developed that when I was in the Boy Scouts. I was in the Boy Scouts briefly, like way back in the early 90s. And that helped me develop more. I've done backpacking. I've camped out in the stars without a tent. All that kind of stuff. I can ramble on about this, but my best outing actually was with the Boy Scouts. We got to overnight on Alcatraz back in like '93 or '94, I think it was.
Wow.
And yeah, you ever see The Rock? The movie The Rock with Sean Connery? Okay, there's a scene where they're stuck in the cell, where they get captured and they're put in the cells. We slept in those cells. That's in cell block D.
Sweet.
I know exactly where I was in that. And I'll tell you what, Alcatraz is a lot creepier at night when there aren't any people around. Take the audio tour, man. It's great.
I have done, yeah. I strongly recommend it. Anyone who's going to visit that area, do the audio tour of Alcatraz. It's amazing.
And also with the way the fog works out there, like if you've ever been to San Francisco during certain parts there, there's fog, right? At City, try being stuck on a little island in the middle of the bay when there's fog rolling in. It's like being in another dimension. You can't even see anything. But yeah, it was fun. Also, in terms of California in general, we have a really varied terrain, a lot of different habitats, a lot of different areas. Like, there's always that joke where you go surfing and snowboarding in the same day, which is true if you piece that out correctly. I've spent so much time out in the woods. I've done so much hiking. I've been to I'd say maybe about 3/4 of the national parks out here. And yeah, if I could, I would just live out there year round, but I can't.
So, crikey. I mean, I've done a fair few national parks, but what would be your... I don't know if I should restrict this to California or just give you free reign. No, let's give you free reign. What has been the national park? Okay, let's rephrase this, Kit. What has been the national park where you've really, really felt total peace as you possibly can with yourself?
I would say, okay, so just for California, Yosemite, right? See, everyone talks about Yosemite, right? And they talk about it for a reason. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's everything you'd want in a national park. It has the trails, it has the variety of terrain, it has the waterfalls, it has all this stuff, and it's serene. I mean, I went there. I've been there a few times. I actually just went there for Memorial Day a couple weeks ago, and oh my god, I could just grab a tent and just stay here. In fact, I actually met a lady that works at the daycare out there. She just started working there like a month ago, and she's like, "Dude, you can work in the Ansel Adams store. They're looking for people." I'm like, that's pretty tempting.
That's tempting.
That's pretty tempting, because my work gets compared to Ansel Adams every once in a while. But that's for California. For the United States, like for other places in the United States, Zion in Utah.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, have you been to Utah?
I've been to Utah, but I've not been to Zion. No, I've been to Salt Lake City and I've been to the area, but not Zion.
You should go to Zion, man. You like outdoors and you like not just geography but also geology. Yeah. Utah is a geologist's playground, man. There are so many things going on with that terrain out there. Just in terms of history, it would take way too long to get into that. Internationally, I love Iguazu Falls National Park, both the Argentine and the Brazilian side. Now, Iguazu Falls is the largest waterfall system on Earth, for those who don't know.
Yep.
And look it up, Google that, okay?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's one that geography teachers listening will be like, yep, because that's actually quite a popular place to teach about is, that area of Brazil and everything like that, Iguazu Falls. And crikey, when I used to teach to the year 8s to the 7th graders, when we did a unit about Brazil, we definitely looked at those falls. And I always thought to myself, wow, just what I wouldn't give to go there. Yeah, incredible. And yeah, when you were talking about so one of the places I have another affinity to as well is Bozeman, Montana. And I always joke that the house which my in-laws have out in Bozeman, Montana is going to be the exact spot that Zephyr Cochran launches the Phoenix.
Oh my God.
But anyway.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
But anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole, so I'm going to be out there in 2063, right? You can come too.
Yeah, totally.
But it's when we go hiking out there as well, I get that exact same sense, like that you just say. Like, I love Bozeman as a place. I love, San Francisco. I love over here. I love Norwich. I do love the cities. But I tell you what, just to get up in those mountains, especially in the Bridger Range, which is right by the house, it's just wonderful. And then you look over the ridge. You look over the western side of the ridge towards Bozeman, Montana, or you look over the eastern side of the ridge, back towards Billings and the Crazy Mountain and all that. Like, it's, perfect. So in terms of national parks, you mentioned Yosemite, and the connection that people may be very, very familiar with here in the United Kingdom is, of course, John Muir. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have something called the John Muir Award, which kids can do, in which they have to discover wild places, explore them, write about them, and then they can get
certificates. That's so cool. Oh my God, I wish we had that here.
Yeah, I used to do that, and I hope they're listening, but I really, really do miss the folks up in the Yorkshire Dales National Park, because I used to take a field trip of kids up there every year to do their John Muir Award. So you folks up at Malham Tarn, if you're listening, I love you and I miss you so much, and I hope I can get back up there one day. Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, and I think a lot of people who are geographers listening to this, Justin, will definitely feel an affinity with what you've said there with regards to feeling at one with the landscape. And what you said about if you want to get to know someone, go on a hike with them. And can I add one thing to your list?
Go for it. Absolutely.
Which I thought that was great what you were saying about, the way they prepare everything, like what they choose to stop and look at.
There you go. Absolutely.
Yeah, or fix their gaze upon, which could be anything from a vista, a panorama in front of them, or it could be, that wildflower and that butterfly or that caterpillar or, larvae or whatever sitting on that wildflower, or the rocks. So you can tell a lot about a person by what they choose to look at while they're on the hike, what they choose to pause for. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. So when we're over, we're gonna go hiking in Zion together. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You travel a lot, and I'll tell you one thing as well, Justin, and people really got to take a look at this, is that you've got an Instagram. You can give your handle later on in the show. So you have an Instagram and you have a 500 px website as well, and you just take some incredible photos. And I've seen the ones that, just looking at this, the Iguazu Falls. Everybody, if you're a geography teacher using this, next time you teach Iguazu Falls, go on Justin's website, get the pictures and use those. They are freaking amazing.
I haven't updated that often, so because I'm trying to find a better website to put it on. So if you just want to look at my photos, I usually just post a bunch of them on my Twitter. So just look on there, okay? Yep.
So at the end of the we'll keep you hooked, everybody, and Justin will give a shout out to their Twitter feed and everything at the end. Right. So okay. I used to have one of the very, very first Kodak digital cameras, very first. In fact, I took it. We were talking a bit earlier, like I'd been to South Africa and places like that. I took one of the very first digital cameras to South Africa with me. It was a brick of a Kodak. It was amazing. And it took one of those big, fat, compact flash cards.
Yeah.
Don't know if you remember those. But it took really fantastic pictures. But and I actually got very, very careful and keen about how I was framing things, stuff like that, even though I knew I could have deleted it and tried again. So I didn't really have any method. I was just point and shoot, take again if I didn't like it. But do you go through some kind of process or do you just point and shoot and say, I think I've got it? How do you do that? I mean, these are amazing, these photos.
Well, I think in terms of, I think this actually relates to geography, by the way. I'm going to title that together.
Do it.
There's this thing in geography called spatial awareness, like geospatial awareness, right? What is in relation to yourself and to other objects, right? Why is not only what something is, why is it there, where it is, why it's there, right? And it can also, like, how you perceive things, like in terms of angles, and in terms of perspective, in terms of lighting, right? Like the position of the sun overhead. Like, you know where the sun is? I know where the sun is right now. That kind of awareness, like some people, like for me, it comes naturally. I didn't know there was a term for that until I took a geography course. But for some people, it comes naturally. But you can develop that through photography if you focus on composition, based on based on the shapes that you see, based on like the leading lines. Like you have, I tell people ask me for advice sometimes, not all the time, sometimes, about like how to become a better photographer. I say just stop for a second, just slow down and actually think about what you want in the photo. And you can get better at it, you can get faster at it if like after a while. But it's good to start. This is good practice for anything you do. Is you stop and think about what you're doing, and you just analyze your surroundings. I used to think everyone could do that, but apparently not. It's not so much of a process as it is just keeping an eye out for perspective and angles and colors. That's how I can best explain it. It's just looking for that natural geometry that occurs. It's like Mother Nature can design all kinds of weird and crazy stuff, and you just have to like keep an eye out for it because it's all around you. It's all around you, and it's always interacting. There are always all kinds of processes going on. Like, I mean, you studied meteorology, you know all about that.
Yep.
But it's not so much of a process, just being observant and adapting that in a creative way.
I looked through your photos today when I was, trying to get ready to come on, and one of my favourite photos, actually, just as you were saying about like angles of sun, is the one that you took actually of Caerphilly Castle, of the moat around Caerphilly Castle. Yeah. The way that's been framed, the sun. You look like you went there either kind of like early in the morning, or you were there towards the dusk, because the shadows were very long.
Mm-hmm.
And the wall of the castle just looks so much more imposing by the way that's framed.
Yeah, when you're standing right in front of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And the way that those shadows are just creeping out towards the moat. And I tell you what, if I was an attacker, like trying to breach Caerphilly Castle, I'm feeling like I'm attacking Helm's Deep there by just looking at that picture. That's one of my, and I tell you, I could choose so many good pictures, but that one of, and the one of the giant lily pads as well, just the way that you've kind of like got down, towards the level of the lily pad, so you're kind of like looking across them rather than down at them.
Yeah, I almost fell in when I took those.
I was going to ask actually whether that was the case, but yeah, and you're right. It's kind of got me thinking actually what you're saying about spatial awareness, and I'm wondering. I would always try and do well by any kids that I used to teach geography to, and I always would try and get any kid to fulfil their potential, and I could always believe that any child, any person could be a good, solid geographer.
Right.
But you just got me thinking about whether spatial awareness may be a form of cognitive intelligence, that if you've got like a greater maybe spatial awareness, you may be better to grasp geographical concepts and ideas a lot quicker and easier than maybe someone who doesn't have that kind of spatial intelligence.
I think that's true, but I like to encourage people to like develop. If they don't have it, if it doesn't come naturally to them, they can develop it. Because a lot of people like it's one of those things where even still today, people just still think that they're only good at one thing, and they think that's what they think they are for the rest of their lives, right? They think like, oh, I'm going to be such and such when I grow up, and that's all I am, right? You can learn more about the world by actually like taking the time to study it and studying yourself and developing yourself and developing those skills. You are not just set on any one particular path, right? You can choose whatever you want to do. You keep growing. Don't limit yourself. And so I'm telling you, if like any kids out there that are listening to this right now, like you can learn more about your world than you think you can. So don't sell yourself short. You can do more than what you think you can. So don't stop.
I used to say exactly the same thing to my school leavers. I used to say, look, some of you know you're going on to sixth form, which, I mean, because we break, whereas you in US, you would go right to 18 into your senior years and stuff like that. Like there's a kind of like a little bit of a break. Some schools go into their senior years. Some schools you have to move to another school to do your senior years. So we call that sixth form, or or college, and then they can choose to do university or work or whatever. And I used to say to kids, look, do you know what you want to do next? And some kids would say, no, I don't. And I've bumped into some ex-students who are now in their mid-20s and they're still floating around, still not sure what they want to do. It's like, that's fine. You're fine. Just keep growing yourself and see, something will come to you that sparks your interest, or you think, oh, I never really thought about that. I'm going to give that a go. And for you, I only became a teacher by happenstance because all the postgraduate courses had gone. I was just too slow. And I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then I just went round to one of those typical like postgraduate fairs just as I was graduating. I was like, there was a stall about becoming a teacher. I was like, well, I love geography so much. I've worked with kids and I liked it. Let's just do it. And I ended up doing that for 13 years.
Really? Oh my God.
So that is amazing, amazing advice that all young people should listen to is, don't limit yourself. And that really does sum up actually your handle, your Twitter handle very nicely, which is obviously polymathically. So
that handle is not for show, okay?
No.
So no, I know that I can do more than what I am, because it's easy to rest on your laurels.
Yes.
Like, because there's a lot of smart people out there that just like to show off. They'll quote like Shakespeare or something like that, or they're like, oh yeah, look at all the stuff that I read. Da, da, da. I'm like, well, yeah, but what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Are you happier? How has that made you a better person? How has that developed you? That's the problem, is that a lot of people don't take risks, in terms of developing themselves. It's very easy to fall into a comfort zone and never actually do anything else, because, hey, you found what's easy and what's comfortable for you, but you didn't push yourself further. And I tell people all the time, is that you are more capable of more things than you will ever realize, but it won't happen unless you actually try it. And a lot of the stuff in that profile, man, it's just weird how that some of that was unintentional. It just happened that way.
Yeah.
But it's made me a better and more rounded person.
Yeah, it's fabulous. And I took a risk to take a year out of teaching. I was lucky and privileged to know that I would have had my job back if I wanted it back, because it was it was technically a sabbatical.
Yeah.
It was sabbatical, and I was meant to go back to the school I was teaching at after the year, and I was going to move on. But then another opportunity came up which I took, and I took these risks, and I'm like, oh, crikey, and because we've talked about it before, how much my life has changed because I took that risk for the better. And my geography teaching colleagues out there, you may remember, oh crikey, what year was it now? In fact, it was that year. It was my sabbatical year when I came into the Geographical Association conference, and I gave a teach meet talk about taking a sabbatical and taking risks. I don't like to push it out too much, Justin, because it's kind of like it's the old me, let's just say.
Hey, that's okay. That's all right.
But it's very worth watching if you're thinking about, I would like to take a break from teaching, or even just your career in general. That the risks might be worth taking. And if like me, you're in a privileged position where you can fall back into that safety net of that inertia, if that's what you so wish to happen, then I would say it's even more of a reason to take the risk. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. 2 pence, 2 cents. So what would be your... All right, this is so cliche of a question.
Uh-oh.
Your favourite photo? Oh, God,
my
what a
favorite
stupid...
photo? That's like asking which of my fingers is my favorite.
I know, what a silly question, Kit.
There's a photo I post all the time on Twitter because I freaking love it. It's one I took in Guatemala back in New Year's of 2017. And for those of you that are not familiar with Guatemala, they have like, I think, over 30 active volcanoes there. It's either 30 active volcanoes or 30 volcanoes. I can't remember which one it is. But one of them, so I was hiking one volcano, Randall. I was my last day in Guatemala. I was hiking the volcano, and we were on our way back when another one erupted. It was Volcán de Fuego. It erupted, and okay, we kind of have to get out of here. So we were already coming back into town, but we were passing this erupting volcano, and I said, okay, I have to get a shot of this. But of course we can't stop. We're in the middle of the road.
Mm.
And we're traveling past this forest. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get whatever I can. So what I do, I grab my camera and I just point it through the window. We're going pretty fast too. I'm like, okay, I'll set the camera to high speed and I'll see what I can get, right? And it's fingers crossed. And what happened is I got a shot of the eruption of this beautiful pyroclastic cloud from under forest cover in a moving vehicle from the side of a van. You know how hard it is to get a photo like that? It's a 1 in a million shot. And I love that photo. It's not the brightest or it's not the most stylish photo I've ever taken, but that one was definitely a 1 in a million shot, and I love it.
So the reason why you love it is because of the situation you were in.
Because of the situation.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think there are a lot of times where people just like whip out their phone and like take a photo, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a photo of my food now, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool, but do you have a story behind it? Well, no, it's just your lunch. I'm like, yeah, how about this? I have a story behind this, okay?
Boom.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. I'll show this to Justin on the camera. So this is when I took. This is when I took a bunch of high school students to Yellowstone National Park and the Bozeman area. And we actually used the house, I mentioned before, as a field trip base. And the reason why I love this book is because that's what us hiking up one of the mountains.
Right.
It's because almost every picture in it tells a story, and I often look back at this book, and with so much affection because of, it was such a, we fundraised so much money to maybe to be able to afford this, and even this silly picture of Eleanor and Becky, bless them, all these kids are in their 20s now, just at Minnesota.
Look at that.
At the airport, like they see a giant moose and look at the look on their faces. Every single picture is just beautiful, and I haven't even shown you like the landscape ones. And you're right, that book is so precious to me, not just because of the photos, but for everything that I see in there, every caption that I read, it just brings back those memories of taking those kids to a landscape they'd never experienced before, ever in their entire lives. Because they're born and bred in Norfolk, which is. It's quite flat, and the landscape's beautiful, but it's quite monotonous in places. But then you go, this is amazing, right, everybody? We arrived at the house in the middle of the night, pitch black dark. So we flew into Bozeman airport, and then we got back. They were all shattered, all jet lagged, went straight to bed. So of course, when they wake up the next day, they're seeing everything for the very first time. When I saw, I think it was Tom and Nathan, I think, were at one of the breakfast tables, and they were just like that, their mouths open, staring out the windows, like. And the first question I said to them was not like, "Good morning, how do you sleep?" I was like, "What do you think?" And like when we looked out the window for the first time, we were like, "Oh my god!" And they'd see in the Bridge of Range Mountains and stuff like that. It's like we did, because they couldn't see any of that when we were driving from the airport to the house. Yeah, so yeah, there you go. You see all those memories coming back now. Oh, that was amazing. Right, time. So thinking about memories and time. You put something really lovely on the bio. You said that time's not linear, but we just perceive as such due to the limitations of human perception. And a lovely little line there. I want to geek out over time a bit, especially since.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, let's exchange little tidbits, which is quite fun about time. So one of the things I love to talk is about light and the speed of light, and the fact that obviously don't look directly at the sun, everybody. I'm not asking you to do that. There were certain individuals of well-known profiles can look at the sun all they like. When you receive that sun's light, you're looking in the past, 8 minutes into the past, because it takes like 8 minutes to travel from the sun to the earth. And then, of course, the same with all the stars. All the stars are coming from the past and things like that. Or so we think, of course, because we don't know if the speed of light is the same in all directions, I think.
Yeah.
But when you think of time, then, when you say it's not linear, what do you mean by that in terms of human perception?
Okay, so this is going to sound a lot like Star Trek, right? Or maybe the Twilight Zone, or God knows what else. I personally believe, I can't prove this, but I think that either all events are happening simultaneously or that some of them are connected somehow in ways that we cannot perceive based on our perceptions. Because we like to think of time in terms of in linear terms, right?
Times arrow, yeah.
Cause and effect, right? That's not necessarily how it works. We just think it does. It's just like the electromagnetic spectrum, right? We only see a visible band. We only see like a visible band of that, right? But if you've taken a geography course, you know that there's a whole light spectrum that you don't see. You got your infrared, you got all of that. So I think that time operates not necessarily on a similar way, but it has its own mechanics that we do not understand yet because of the limitations of our perceptions and also limitations, and therefore the limitations of science. This is gonna make me sound like a crackpot, but I have had dreams that come true, and I'm not talking about like deja vu, and I'm not talking metaphorically like in a storybook either. I'm talking about getting like brief flashes of premonitions of things that happen later on, and I have no way of proving that, but it has happened, and I keep a record of that now. It doesn't happen that often anymore, but I used to get that like at least a few times, like at least once every few months, and it made me start questioning the exact nature of our reality, how much of it is actually real, and in terms of time, how are the past, present, and future connected? And which is way over my head because I am not a physicist. My background's in chemistry, okay?
Yeah.
And so I don't. If you have a physicist on, you should ask them about that. But I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of it's kind of like the end of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
All right,
we're gonna tie in Star Trek with this at one point, aren't we? Because of all good things. Because you know what happened to Picard at the end of that, right? He was living in three different eras, different times, and ever since I've started having those dreams, it's made me wonder, like, how much of that could actually be feasible. But again, I know it makes me sound nuts, but it's just in the back of my mind.
I'm going to back you up here because I'm actually going to give people things that they can think about tangibly to actually to question this as well, right? And I bet you, and I've been one of those people who I've been to a place that I know I've never been before, but somehow I had that really strong feeling that I had been there before,
right?
And I did know where something is, or it was one I can't remember exactly what it was now, but there was one where it's like somebody said, "Oh, to get there, you got to go." I was like, "No, actually, you got to go this way and then this way," and then I was right, even though I'd never been there before, never seen the map.
Right?
Right, so I believe that's a bit of foreshadowing of taking place. And okay, so here's some things for people to think about, right? Which can make this sound, I would say, let's say less crazy, right? Because you used the word. First one's this: your perception of time actually does change as you get older, right? So we all get that feeling that as we get older, time seems to get quicker, but that doesn't make any sense, does it? Because of a ticking of a clock, the quartz resonance, 1 second is 1 second. But hang on a minute. When you were younger, didn't you think that everything would last forever? Didn't you think that your parents would always live forever? Didn't you think that the day would go on and then when your parents used to say, you need to stop this because we've got to do this, because you had no perception of the passage of time, you would then, as my kids sometimes do, throw a tantrum that they have to stop what they do.
Yep.
And so we recognize that. And here's my theory of explanation for that. When you are younger, 1 second of your life is a greater percentage of your existence.
That's true.
Whereas when you're older, 1 second of your life is a minuscule percentage of your existence. Therefore, by perception, time gets quicker.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And so that kind of thinks, right, if that's the case, if time is just a perception, then maybe these kind of things that Justin's just mentioned, all that fit, call it what you want. Justin doesn't think it's deja vu for them, but maybe for you, if it's deja vu, perhaps that's some explanation. And space-time, you've all heard, whether you understand it or not, the closer you get to a place where space-time is greatly warped or got a much more dense, greater gravity, time slows down. How can that be possible? Well, it does, because it's been proven.
Yep.
So there you go. So I don't I am one of those people who reads like Wikipedia entries of like time dilation and
Yep.
stuff like that. But
Okay.
so what all I'm saying to everyone out there is that don't throw that away. Don't throw that away because there might be something to do with that.
And then also, that also made me think of another thing too, in terms of a biological sense. When we're younger, I think things go slower because younger brains are designed to take in more information, to learn more about the world and more about their surroundings. Therefore, there's more information to process. Therefore, things go slower.
Makes
I
sense.
don't know if that's how the human brain works, but hey, that's just a theory.
I think we need to investigate this and maybe publish a paper.
I know, right?
Okay. Yeah, and all right, we could talk about all the time travel. Okay, before we move on, I will ask you this then. So, Star Trek. So I'm a big, massive Star Trek fan. Star
Yes,
Trek
you
Discovery,
are.
and everybody knows by now because you're on that. I can't believe how I managed to get Adil Hussain on the podcast last episode.
Oh my god, that was so cool.
Who played Aditya Sahil. Amazing stuff. What a guy. What a guy. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, please do. What inspirational. It's the Star Trek Discovery timeline stuff's been okay. It's been okay. It's been really interesting. But my favourite has got to be Cause and Effect, Star Trek The Next Generation.
You and I are on the same page with that. Okay, I just watched that last night. Oh my god. I love that
spoilers. If you've not watched Star Trek Next Generation and you have any intention on doing so, right? So what happens in Cause of Effect is that it plays out of a scene, and and then all of a sudden there's this situation that happens where a catastrophe occurs, where basically the Enterprise gets destroyed, and then you think, my God, the Enterprise, but then the scene starts again, and it almost plays identically, but you just notice subtle differences. And then the same thing happens, the Enterprise gets destroyed, and it starts again, and then every time this time loop starts, people start to notice something's not quite right. And it's just, it is such fabulous writing. I mean, it could be complete, excuse my English word here, it could be complete bollocks for all we know. But my God, in entertainment value, what a well-written episode. And of course, what was the ship called? The USS Bozeman.
The Bozeman.
But yeah, what's your thoughts on that episode? You only just watched it.
I love that. I think that's my favorite TNG episode. It's either that or like, I got the Best of Both Worlds.
Best of Both Worlds, yeah.
I mean, everyone loves the Best of Both Worlds. It's better than some of the movies. And then also one I really like is this one. I think it's from season 4. It's where what's her name? Dr. Crusher. She gets sucked into a warp bubble. Like everyone starts disappearing. Yeah, it's like I think it's Remember Me. Right?
Yes.
I watched that the other night too, and it's not the best episode. It's not the best episode in terms of right, but the idea, I've always been drawn to that, where a person is on their own, which really truly speaks to me because I'm a loner. Like I don't have anybody. I spend all my time alone. But they start to question their perception of reality and how much of what is real versus what isn't. And so you have Dr. Crusher, that was played by the amazing Gates McFadden, who has to deal with the starship suddenly losing people left and right. And like the second that she stops like remembering them, like they'll like blip out. And first it's like her mentor, like her friend and mentor, like suddenly doesn't appear on the ship, and then it's just minor crewmen, and then it's guests, and then the main cast starts disappearing, and they were like in the middle of a meeting, and like she said, okay, we'll have to update Worf with with the new information. Like, well, who's Worf?
Who's Worf? Yeah.
And and they'll stare at her, and she's like, "He's the Klingon, the big guy that never smiles. What's wrong with you people?" And and then there was that one of the creepiest scenes is where it's down to her and Picard, right? And they're on the bridge, and she's trying to convince him that like people are disappearing, and you're going to disappear too. And so she starts. What they do is they have the computer do a diagnostic readout of Picard's vitals. And it's in the background. It's playing in the background. As Marjo Bear's voice, like giving it in the nice even tone. But they're in the middle of. She was actually confessed her love to him, but then suddenly the camera's focused on her. And she's talking, and then all of a sudden you don't hear the computer speak anymore. because you pan over and Picard's gone. That's so creepy.
Yeah.
And like also, she asked the computer at one point. She said, "Okay, here's a question you shouldn't be able to answer. What is the nature of the universe?" The universe is a spheroid that's like 705 meters in diameter. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that is the that's just it's so creepy when you think about it. And that's just for TNG. I mean, I was watching Voyager the other night. Because hey, Amazon Prime is great for that. But yeah, there's no product plug there. But there's this one where 7 of 9 has to take care of the ship by her own for like a month. I don't remember the name of that. It's like 7 Alone or something like that. Because they have to go through this nebula that eats human flesh or whatever, and so they have to go into stasis for a month to get through it. And it's her and the Doctor. You've seen Voyager, right?
I have indeed, yeah.
Okay, yeah, good. So it's her and the Doctor for a month, and 7 goes crazy because she can't handle isolation because she's still dealing with the fallout of leaving the Borg collective behind, and this is her first real test of individuality. Like that's like individuality on like a whole other level, because it's one thing to be an individual as part of a crew, but when you have to take care of that crew on your own with no one else. And there's another one too where you talk about time, where she has to stop a sabotage on Voyager like 5 years before it happens.
Yes,
she gets it's relativity. It's relativity.
Yeah.
Where she gets transported like the 28th century or something like that, and it's a time machine ship, and so she has to. That's a whole other great
the USS Relativity, yeah, and yeah. Oh crikey, we could go on forever with this just with Star Trek, and the thing what I will end with, we'll turn about Star Trek actually is like, it's just, I mentioned it to I was saying last episode as well. It's about how, of course these are all popular culture, and you have people out there who say, "Oh, you're just all nuts for like loving this kind of stuff," but they can bring you back to your humanity and talk to you in such deep ways. Like you had mentioned that one about, the story about 7 being on her own and how that speaks to people who feel isolated. And I'll tell you what, crikey, how prescient is that episode with regards to things like COVID?
Absolutely.
For example. So people will now rewatch those classic episodes of whatever they love. It could be Star Trek, it could be something else, and they're going to find a new meaning because of the current circumstances we're all facing right now. And it's and again, everybody, if you've not listened to the last episode, Dill was saying when we talked about, the pros and cons, like the benefits and drawbacks of popular culture as a way of learning about ourselves, then definitely listen to that. Right, I'm going to do 2 last things with you. I think this is going to be quite fun. I'm gonna give you 5 random topics for something called Jog On. And Jog On is where you get to choose 3 of these topics by saying, "Yes, Kit, we'll talk about that. Let's jog on," or you can pass on 2 of them and say, "Take a hike." That wasn't a pun for your benefit.
Okay. Hey, whatever works. That's fine.
I've been using that since before I talked to you.
That's fine.
So remember, you can only pass twice.
All right.
So if you choose to pass on the first one, you've only got 1 pass left for the last 4. So let's stick to 60 seconds each of these, right? Okay, so the first topic is rhinoceroses.
Pass, or was it
take a hike? Right. Okay, you've only got 1 pass left now. This one you're definitely going to take 60 seconds on, right? This is completely random. The next topic is volcanoes. Would you believe it?
So I'm going to jog on for that one because volcanoes are freaking awesome. Let's see if I want. Okay, so when I went back to college remotely during the pandemic to get my degrees in environmental science and geography, I wanted to do geology. Okay, I wanted to do geology and study volcanology because that's freaking awesome. But that requires a lot of math background, more than I have. Okay, I haven't taken calculus since I was a freshman in college, like way back, like 20 years ago. Okay, I would have to learn all of that from the ground up again, and I'm like, I can't do that anymore. But I would love to do that. Man, I'm going to Hawaii later on this year. I am going back to Kilauea, and last time I was there, it was pouring down rain. I didn't get any good photos when I was out there. I'm going to go back there. I'm gonna get some lava photos. Guys, if you want to learn more about how the geological processes of the Earth work, and how it impacts weather, how it impacts like climate and things like that, study volcanoes. It's awesome. Not just the Ring of Fire, but everywhere. Yep. Okay, I think it's more than 60 seconds.
Oh, it's almost spot on, actually. Yeah, perfect. Right, this one. I've never asked you actually if you were much of a fan, but the third topic was football, soccer.
Football. I play. Okay, so jog on.
Okay.
I played it. Okay, I don't follow sports at all. I mean, I'll watch the San Francisco Giants if they're in the playoffs or the A's. Baseball's okay in terms of fit. If you okay, I'll get back to football or soccer as it's called here. I actually played in college. Way back in the day, like when I was like a freshman, I think, because I needed one of those physical education requirements to graduate, right? And so I would show up every Saturday morning at this local soccer field. No one was taking attendance. I could have skipped that, but no, I stayed there for 2 hours every Saturday. I played. I was terrible at it. I'm a great hiker. I'm a freaking terrible soccer player. Okay, and like I don't think I ever scored a goal in my life. So hey, that's okay though. Kept me in shape, and it's because hey, when you run around a pitch for 2 hours,
yeah,
it's good exercise.
I've been had so much fun made of me for this, but I do walk in football once a week at the local club, and believe me, everybody, it's actually harder than you think. So it's definitely getting my fitness back, that for sure. Right, 2 more topics remaining. You can pass on one of them, right? So, okay. So the next one is, you travel a lot, so airports.
What about them?
Anything you like about airports? An airport you've been to? I don't know.
Okay, so some of them are really cool. Some of them are not. Okay, I think Hong Kong is probably the best one I've been to in terms of just design, in terms of structure. Singapore's pretty good too. Washington Dulles is freaking terrible. I hate that. And San Francisco is really good too.
Yeah.
The worst one though is probably Cusco, down in Peru. Because it's a small airport, you have to fly into Cusco, right? It's surrounded by mountains, and so the wind shear is freaking terrible. But so I was about to leave. My flight was going to leave like an hour, but then all the flights got canceled due to bad weather, right? And so suddenly you have this is a tiny airport, by the way. This is a freaking tiny airport. And so suddenly you have an airport full of people with no flights. And chaos. There was just chaos. Fights were breaking out. They were attacking people behind the counter. And so I had to go hide in the corner somewhere and get on the phone with the insurance agent and like beg for a flight home. And so I'll tell you what, man, that was not fun. I ended up having to improvise a whole new flight plan home. I had to go from Peru to Miami to I think it was to Houston, then back to San Francisco.
Oh wow!
And I arrived almost exactly 24 hours later than I intended to be. And that's that'll take more than 60 seconds to talk about. But that's a worst.
We'll drop it there. Well, you can't talk about the last one. You've used your 3 jog-ons, which was going to be vegetables. I don't know if you would have had anything profound to say about that.
I like salad. I have salad every single night. It's awesome. Tomatoes, man. Cucumbers.
Wonderful. So, oh my God. That was a good jog-on. I love that. Crikey, I felt like it was a sprint rather than a jog. Okay. Right, last thing to do then. We are all geographers, so for everybody who's not familiar with this, we like to link the guests together by them coming up with a word that we try and link to geography. And Adele Hussein, last episode, came up with a wonderful word, which was embodiment.
Yes,
what fabulous word. So I know Adele was going to be listening to this and absolutely intrigued with how you're going to link that to geography, Justin. And as you know, this is timed for 30 seconds. So I'm going to...
Oh, yeah. No pressure.
So no pressure? So are you ready? 30
no,
seconds.
But I'll do it anyway.
Are you about to embody this? Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
When you're ready, go.
Get ready, go. Okay, so we embody the geography that is around us. Okay, we are influenced by not just the culture, but the very landscape that's around us, because geography influences everything that's around us in terms of culture, in terms of beliefs, in terms of priorities. Like, for example, I grew up at the base of a mountain. I was really interested in forests and camping and things like that. Whereas if you're in a different part of the world, you'll have completely different interests, but it will still be influenced by geography.
Perfect.
Did that work?
Boom.
Okay, yeah, there's no pressure with that. I'm rambling, but that's okay.
No, I'll tell you what, rambling within a set time is a skill, in my opinion. Well, you get the joy now of coming up with something for our next guest. What were you going to go for?
I'm going to go with the word elusive.
Oh, yes. This is getting good now. I tell you what, every week this is getting better and better. Elusive. Do you have any... No, I was going to say any reason why you're going to come up with elusive, but then that would probably give some hints to our next guest. So
I'm not giving
elusive.
you anything.
You're going to be elusive with elusive. Right. Justin, this has been such a pleasure.
Absolutely.
So last thing for you then, last thing is, first of all, do you have any shout-outs to give to anybody?
Shout-outs to the travel and photography communities on Twitter, because there are tons of great people on there. You can look for your people, okay? Social media, when it's not busy ticking everybody off and making people angry, you can find people that share your interests, okay? And that could be any interest that you have whatsoever, but for me it's travel and photography, and video games, and anime, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we did not get into. But, and then shout out also to the, in particular, but also the trans and non-binary community.
Yes.
Because, hey, people need, it's not just about representation and support, but it's also about supporting yourselves. And to any kids out there, any trans or non-binary kids out there, and I'm not going to use the empty platitudes of saying that it gets better, because that's just an empty platitude in itself. It can get better, but you have to make it better, okay? And no one's going to do it for you, okay? Because there's only so much that you can do for each other. But do not give up. Never, ever, ever give up. I tell people all the time, you can do anything you want with your life. It's your life. You can do anything with your life if you can handle the consequences for it. But one of the things you should never do is give up. Because there's a whole story with me, and I shouldn't even be here, really. There's a whole story behind that, but I did not give up. And now I have a new lease on life thanks to geography. And so I'll reiterate what it says, just keep pushing yourself. And that's for everybody, but especially for the trans and non-binary community. There are a lot of us out there, and you are not alone. Okay? So don't give up.
You've been listening to two of them for the last hour, everybody.
Yeah. So there's a great big world out there that is worth exploring, and it's worth living for. And geography can help you learn more about it and yourself. So there you go.
That's amazing. Yeah, and you can look at individuals like myself and Justin. We are visible. We will stand up. But don't try and emulate us or be us. Be yourself. You can look to us. You can look to us as examples of us trying. Being ourselves and being visible. We love you all, and you are valid. And Justin, I just say I couldn't add anything to that really. So thank you so much for that. So you got me all tongue tied, which is a rare thing, but a lovely thing too. Social media, right? So we want to see these pictures. We want to see your wonderful ramblings on Twitter. So where can we find you?
I'm on. I'm on Polymathically. That's my handle on everything. So it's you can spell it's POLYMATHICALLY, and that's on Twitter. That's on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram that much anymore because it sucks, but I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm on there. I'm on YouTube. I just followed you on YouTube, by the way, Kit.
I noticed. Thank you.
Yeah. So you can check out my channel there. I don't post that much often there. But yeah, just Google Polymathically. You'll find all kinds of stuff there. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter. I'm there all the time. And
educators, if you're looking for some fantastic imagery as a curriculum artifact or a bit of stimulus for some learning, do check out those photos. They're amazing. Justin, this has been overdue. So much fun. I'll say it on quote unquote on air, as I did off air, but I consider you a friend, and it's just been fabulous to talk to you. So thank you so much, Justin.
You too, absolutely, and thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you had fun. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe so more stories and experiences can drop into your favourite podcast app. If you fancy being a guest or have any feedback, follow us on Twitter at coffeegeogpod and send us a DM. Or you could email coffeeandgeog@geogramblings.com. Until next time, keep geogging.